Dude, what a different skill set. Like coming over to, doing this kind of stuff, it's like cameras and lights and, angles and
Well, the move away from Keller Williams did you a world of good, obviously.
I won't disagree with you there, sir. Hey guys and gals, welcome back to Higher Level Real Estate. I am here with somebody you probably know, but if you don't, you should know. This is John Hoffman. John.
Hey, Keegan.
Hey, bud. We act like this is the first time meeting. It's not. We've known each other for quite a while now.
Yeah.
I'm going to introduce you because I feel just as excited, if not more excited, about sharing your numbers than you may yourself. I don't know. But just to get this straight, licensed since 1986. You've done over 2,500 transactions personally yourself.
Yeah.
And it's about 15 years in a row where your GCI is over $1 million. And this year, you're on pace to do about $2 million in GCI.
Yeah, we're real close.
Yeah. That's like, I don't even know if most agents dream about that.
They should.
They should.
They should.
But they don't.
No, they don't.
Probably because they're not surrounding themselves with the right people.
They're not surrounding themselves with the right people. They don't know what they don't know, and they don't learn it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard part. That's a really hard part. The other day, I was at the bank depositing checks, and I was wearing this hat, and the teller, who actually happened to be the assistant manager, shared with me that her and her husband are now looking to buy their first home. And just not too long ago, I closed on a home, or I gave it to one of the agents that works for me, but I closed on the home with somebody that I met at the Lightning game during the last Stanley Cup run.
Yeah.
And just last week, I had somebody from 5 years ago that I let underneath my umbrella. She was in here with her significant other who owns a lot free and clear worth $500 in downtown and wants to build 2 homes worth $800 apiece.
That's awesome.
And so you start to get this feeling where wherever you go, without even trying, business just seems to gravitate towards you. And I really felt like I really hit that maybe 5 or 6 years ago, because it's not like I'm out there being like, hey, buy or sell with Keegan. I'm not even really in production anymore. I really try to make sure the agents are in production, and you got to be a really, really, really special client for me to actually put time into your actual transaction, right? But you're one of those same people. You go anywhere in public and somehow business just flocks to you. But then on the flip side, other agents, right, not even just most agents, they don't even know where to start to find business.
You know why?
I'm about to find out.
Okay. So what happens, like perfect example, you went to the bank and you had the hat and they go, hey, we're looking to buy. You knew what to say, right? Most agents don't.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to ask a series of questions. You're going to get their contact information, and now you've got a client. Because through experience and preparation, you know what to do. Most realtors are going to say, oh, would you like some help? Can I call you? And they've kind of missed that opportunity.
You know what when I asked a bunch of questions, you know what they told me? We were going to buy last year, but we talked to 2 different agents, and they told me it was a bad time to buy and I should wait a year.
And so how much equity did they lose because of that?
Probably about 20%.
Okay, so if it's a $500,000 house, those agents gave advice, and that potential homeowner didn't buy, and if they did, they'd have an extra $100,000 of equity.
Not to mention the rate.
Not to mention the rate. Oh my gosh, yeah. So what happens is when realtors give advice and they don't know what they're doing, they've just cost these people $100,000.
So hire the right realtor. Talk to the right realtor.
I think it's a good idea.
Just because I have a license to tell you exactly what to do in this industry.
Well, the interesting thing is, according to the National Association of Realtors, you know what the definition of a full-time realtor is?
What?
Somebody who doesn't have another job. It
That's
doesn't
it?
mean that they've got to sell a certain amount of homes or be in the business for so long. They don't have another job.
I'm glad they at least track that. That's good to know. So what is the stat of how many transactions does a realtor who doesn't have another job, how many transactions do they do a year?
Well, 50% of all realtors in the United States in 2023 are not going to sell a home that are licensed.
50%?
50%. The average real estate agent is selling between 4 and 6 homes a year. But keep in mind, you know, if we do 150 transactions this year, that's raising everyone's average, right? What's the average? What's the median number? And unfortunately, buyers and sellers today think all realtors are created equal.
They are not.
Nope.
They are not.
Nope.
I would say even the ones that aren't first-time buyers or first-time sellers, some of them still think all realtors are created equal because most of them, most likely, according to numbers, probably didn't have that great of a realtor. And they might not know any different either.
No, a couple times a year we'll deal with people that this is their 5th, the 8th, the 10th move, and they tell us, oh my gosh, you guys were heads and shoulders above anybody else we've ever dealt with. We're not used to this level of professionalism. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's, you know, unfortunately, a lot of people don't have great experiences. You know, hopefully quite a few do. But buyers and sellers don't know enough about quizzing agents on their competency before they hire somebody.
Yeah, I agree. I tell the story sometimes. I've only held 2 open houses in my career. And one of them, I only held the open house for the last 5 minutes and to meet the agent there that I had hosting the open house. Well, mom and daughter was buyer. They came strolling in. They were riding their bike around the neighborhood. They came in. They already had another agent that wasn't with them. Within 10 minutes, the mom, who had bought and sold 7 different times, said, "You've given me more information in the last 10 minutes than all the previous 7 realtors have in those transactions combined." The next day, I met daughter at new construction. The next day after that, I met daughter and fiance to sign the contract at new construction. And now I've gotten 16 different transactions from that one person between them and all the referrals they've given me between the fantasy football, the wedding, the bachelor party, the birthday parties. I mean, it just one time showing your value can lead to all these different transactions just from knowing what to say.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And knowledge is king. And like I said before, most realtors don't know what they don't know, and they don't want to learn it. See, one thing I learned when I first got into real estate, I needed to learn what I didn't know. So the first year in real estate, I learned everything there was about mortgages and everything there was about construction. I needed information so I can speak intelligently to potential clients to separate myself from the average realtor.
I like you said, I needed to know everything about mortgage and construction. Do you know how rare I hear that? My first day on the job, I learned DTI, and I thought I showed up for the wrong job, right? But my mentor's like, no, if you don't know this, you're just like every other realtor.
Well, we used to have to qualify people ourselves. You know, we had the HP 12C calculator where we did the debt to income ratios, and now with everything online and lenders, it's so accessible. Listen, computers and the internet have changed real estate and made it a lot easier.
Yeah. It still doesn't seem very easy for a lot of agents, though.
Well, no. So if you're out and you meet somebody and you want to be able to qualify them in your head or do it on paper, and which I could do if I wanted to what they can afford.
Yeah.
How many realtors can do that?
I would probably say 1% tops.
Okay.
Tops.
Fair enough.
And because that's something that I train on. That is a big part of our training here is knowing how to qualify somebody other than looking at the credit report.
So if you meet a potential buyer or seller anywhere and you start asking them questions and answering them questions and giving them advice that makes complete sense,
Mm-hmm.
then they're going to want to be near you, right? You know what you're talking about because they've spoken to other realtors before, and and you can really make an impression on somebody if you've got knowledge and you actually know what questions to ask and what to say. But part of that is that, you know, I practiced every day for an hour for 15 years on what I was going to say, My listing presentation hasn't changed in 18 years approximately. I ask the same questions every time.
As you should.
As I should, so we don't wing it. And so, again, real estate's not hard. It's just not easy.
You've told me that so many times, and it's stuck with me. It's not easy, but it's really not that hard.
It's not hard because you've got to be self-disciplined. You've got to really put in the time. And as soon as you realize there's no shortcuts, and you embrace it and you learn, it's a tremendous industry to make a really good living in. When you look at our average commission check on listings is right around $19,000. And so Maria and I focus on listings. I think in the last few years, I've done one buyer transaction. It was a house that wasn't on the market yet. And it was a past client that wanted me to help them. It was a $1.5 million listing. But besides that, 90% of my business has always been listings.
Your opinion on why clients give people like you and I referrals like they do. I mean, 95% of our business, personally, is all past clients and referrals. Why is that the case?
Well, when you've got a good book of business and you've done a great job, people want to refer you. You go to a great restaurant for the first time, you tell everyone, "Oh my gosh, this restaurant's fantastic, you got to go." And I think quite a few buyers and sellers have had frustrating transactions with realtors. And when they come across people that are very knowledgeable and caring and provide all the right information and guidance, they'll tell people. Plus, we ask them, are you comfortable sending us business? Usually it's Maria. We'll call our past clients and ask them, do they know anybody that needs our service? Yeah. And then we remind them, and they're happy to refer you if they've had a great experience with you.
Yeah, I even tell people at the beginning, my goal is to do such a good job for you that you're going to refer all your friends, family, and coworkers and anybody you know when it's time to buy or sell real estate. That's a goal. Like, I want you to know before we start this process, that is my goal. Yeah,
well, it is. And, we've been doing this for so long and we have such a big book of business, past clients, we can fall on that. But if you've been a realtor for 5 years, or like Richard had mentioned earlier here that he did 160 transactions, well, that's not a big book of business, right? So he might be able to get, and you've really got to watch these numbers. Based on the size of your book of business or past clients, it might only be 10 or 15% of your business. And if you want to grow, the other 80 or 90% needs to come from other sources, right? So until you've got a big book of business, if your business, when you track the businesses you should do on every transaction and every year, if half your business is from your past group of clients, you're not lead generating enough.
Yeah.
Right? So be careful about that. If you want to grow your business, you've got to be, farming, growing it. I mean, calling expireds, calling on FSBOs, knocking on doors, going out to social activities, talking to people about real estate. You need to have a system in place on even how to get people you don't know to ask you about the real estate market, right?
Yeah.
Can I give you an example?
Please.
So let's say you and I are golfing for the first time, or we're meeting somewhere in a social situation, and just shake your hand and identify myself. And I would ask you, so Keegan, so tell me, what do you do? And you're going to say, well, anything other than a realtor, right?
Yep.
And I'm going to say, well, that's interesting. Explain that to me. How long have you been doing that? And then you're going to tell me, and I'm going to go, well, good for you. And then you're going to eventually say, so what do you do, John? And say, oh, I'm a very busy realtor.
Very busy realtor. I'm not just a realtor. I'm a very busy realtor.
Yeah. And so then they're going to ask me, well, how's the market? Oh, my gosh, the market's great, but there's an inventory shortage. Who do you know that is thinking about buying or selling real estate in the near future? Right? So the conversation just comes naturally, right? I will ask the cashier at Publix, hey, did I see you at an open house? Are you selling your house? Do you need to? Right? The mindset is you're constantly fishing. You talked about the hockey game. You found somebody and that led to all these transactions. You're absolutely right.
That situation with the hockey game, That was last Stanley Cup, right? So last season, so a year ago, over a year ago now. Well, when I reached back out to him again just to shoot the shit and get some lunch, I had no intention that he was actually buying or selling at that time. I just cared more about the relationship, and he just seemed like a cool guy. Funny enough, he had a realtor and he was actively shopping. After that lunch of just very, very basic information, to you and I basic, but
Right,
to him
right.
super valuable.
Yeah.
Within 24 hours, that realtor was no longer his realtor.
Yeah, that happens when people come across somebody that, wow, this is much better. This is where I want to be, because at the end of the day, people are buying, selling 4, 5, 6 million, $2 million properties.
Yeah.
And then when they come across somebody that is more knowledgeable, more competent, they're going to switch.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I know it hugs the line between cocky and confident, and there is a piece where we always want to stay humble and appreciative, but I kind of have that mindset where if you're an agent out there, you should probably pray that your client doesn't come across a realtor like you or I before you get under contract, because they're going to want to switch almost immediately. Not that we're like, hey, leave your realtor, but the client just sees the value.
The client sees the value, and under circumstances, buyers are fair game unless you've signed a buyer-broker agreement, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're a buyer's agent working with somebody, if you're not getting them the attention, the expertise, and the guidance, and you're not matching their expectations because you think that all you have to do is show them your expectation, you got a really good chance of losing that client.
Yeah. It happens all the time. All the time. I would actually go on a limb. It's probably not that much of a limb. What is it? Like 1 in 9 people in Florida have a real estate license, something stupid like that.
It can be.
Yeah, something ridiculous like that. But I assume that client or that buyer or seller already knows 2, 3, 4 realtors. That's going to make people like you and I look really good really quick.
Well, and that's just an objection or a statement you're going to find from buyers and sellers. But if you've been learning how to answer those types of questions or objections, it's you want them to say that.
Yeah. Learning how to handle objections in a informative and valuable way. That is a piece that I just, outside of this building and outside of your building, like, it's just, I don't see that mentality with agents. They almost expect that if they just have a license, it's just going to happen for them. They're not out there fishing. They're not out there hunting. And when I mean for business, and they're not constantly trying to get better every day. Every day. They're not doing it.
No, and part of that is these real estate offices with keep all your commission, pay a file fee, no desk fee, more money in your pocket. They have to understand if the brokerage is making no money, you're not going to get any training, you're not going to get any guidance. You're kind of on your own.
Yeah.
Which is why when buyers agents put offers in on our listings, they have to deal with me.
Those poor realtors.
Well, and it's an interesting thing. It's because after all these years, Maria and we do all the listings. I negotiate all the contracts on our listings still. I'm heavily involved. And part of that is because I really love doing what I do.
Yeah.
But I also understand that people on a $700,000-$800,000 house, $400,000, doesn't matter. The price point is, my job is to, get that seller as much money as I can to solve problems. And the problems start when the offer comes in from the buyer's agent, right? And so one of the tricks that we do is whenever an offer gets submitted to us, my staff will look up that buyer's agent's track record. How many years in the business? How many total transactions have they done? That's going to let me know what I'm dealing with on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's true. The other side of a transaction is so key. And I know you and I have actually been on the opposite sides of a transaction twice.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things where there were problems in both. The clients barely knew there were problems, but we're talking major electrical work and major drywall work on one. Like the whole electrical system needed to be redone, not just the panel. It needed to be rewired. And on the other, there were major window issues where every single window in the house needed to be replaced and or resealed.
Yeah.
And not once were either of us or either of our clients worried about the transaction falling through. It just felt so smooth where you and I were kind of joking. 90% of agents or 95% of agents, that deal would have been dead. And those clients would have been unhappy and they wouldn't have ended up with the deal that they got. And
Right.
it was such a win-win. And like, I just wish every transaction was like that. I wish and I don't just wish that for me just because I'm not transacting very much anymore because I'm pouring back into the agents. You know,
Right.
more agents leads to more consumers. More happy agents, more good agents leads to more happy consumers. But it's just one of those things, man.
Well, why do you think that transaction, if other agents were involved, would have been a much bumpier road or fallen apart?
They don't know. They don't know. Emotions get the best of people a lot. You and I are very good at staying very cool, calm, and collected in high pressure situations. You know, we practice it. We talk about it with each other. It's not like we talked about it before the listing even came on the market or anything like that. It just, we knew very, very quickly that, okay, this is going to be a smooth road no matter what problem comes up because you and I know how to solve those problems together.
So, to answer my own question, another listing agent would have potentially said, well, this is an as-is contract, right? And then the buyer would have canceled. And, but the reality is, let's take the windows, for example. The contract was a good price for the seller, right? And if they didn't repair them, they would have had to disclose it.
Yep.
And I informed the seller, listen, if we don't do the repairs, we're going to have to go back on the market. We're going to disclose that they were leakage and we had to reseal all the windows. And it's not going to increase the value of the home. So my professional advice to you is we should go ahead and go seal this and let's close the transaction. There's no financial benefit for you not doing that.
Yeah. You and I both know the leverage at all stages of the transaction. And you and I know the consequences of if the transaction does cancel, what happens afterwards.
Right.
Right. And we are able to inform our clients and advise our clients on a very valuable and knowledgeable scale to where they feel confident moving forward.
Well, they want to have all the information. Listen, my job is to give the seller and the buyers all the information that they need to make the best decision for them and their families. And then ultimately they make that decision. This was an example of giving the best information and advice that I could to a client, and they said, yes, that makes sense. Now, if it wasn't explained that way to them, and maybe it was explained by another agent not nearly as professionally, they might have thought it's an as-is contract. I don't have to do anything. They go back on the market, and they've got months of pain, and they potentially lose tens of thousands of dollars.
Most likely they would have. I mean, even if they sold the home at the same exact terms, they still have more interest payments and more taxes and more insurance payments. They would essentially be netting less. And
so it's interesting, Keegan. You're right. And when we talk to an expired listing and I go over the comps and tell them why at 650 it didn't sell and they need to be at, say, 615 from a list price standpoint, and when I explain it to them, the response I usually get is, that makes complete sense. Why didn't my previous agent tell me that? And my answer is because they really didn't know.
Yeah.
And pricing real estate is difficult. Explaining to sellers why things aren't selling based on the competition, lack of upgrades, the lot, 1-story, 2-story, roof pitch. There's so many factors that go into pricing real estate that most realtors don't know.
Yeah, I agree. And that kind of leads me into the next thing. 90-10 rule. 90% of the business is done by 10% of the agents, and there's a reason for it. And, you know, there's also a reason why 85 to 90% of our industry fails out within the first 2 years or so of having their license. Like, there's just a major gap. And I've got a couple things in my head on why I think it might be, and I'm probably right, but what's your opinion?
Well, first of all, the one statistic which is very interesting, and I think this is correct, I think 85% of realtors that get licensed are out of the business in 2.5 years. So you've got this constant, restocking of agents. And then the ones that actually start to make it, they move towards that 10% rule. But they'll also keep in mind is that the overwhelming majority of realtors that are out there selling 1, 2, 3 homes a year, they don't need to be in the business. They're
True.
doing it as a hobby, or they're doing it because their spouse makes enough money where they're just kind of kicking in. And so they're the onesie, twosie realtors that really are the ones that kind of get in the way and make the most glaring mistakes. And buyers overpaying, or buyers losing a house because the realtor didn't explain to them effectively why the house might be worth more than the buyer thought it would be. And so the agents that get the traction, the agents that become professional, the agents that are doing, 20, 25 deals a year or more, those are the agents that are going to be in that top 10%. But then you get the elite agent, right? And that elite agent is the one that's doing, 50, 75 transactions a year or more. And those are very good realtors because they're actually practicing their craft. They've been students of it. They've really dived into what it takes to be successful.
I wish more would do that. It'd make our lives easier. It'd make the industry better. It'd make happier consumers. There probably would be less of us if the standard was higher from an entry standpoint. But yeah, very few people are students of the game, true students.
How many realtors want to be at the office by 8 o'clock in the morning?
Okay, well, don't put me in that category because I'm here at like 8:45 or 9.
well, you're not lead generating, right? You've got other you got other duties, and you're not a practicing realtor. You're a team lead, right?
I mean, I would say our process is so dialed in. We are lead generating even while we're sleeping, right? Like that we've had long conversations.
No,
about
not
that.
you, but I mean the typical buyer's agent. You look at the office that I work in right now. There's nobody there at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning.
No.
Right?
Your staff is
And if you really want to talk to realtors that are doing 50, 75, 100 transactions a year, they put in 50, 60 hours a week.
And it's consistent. Their schedule is consistent, and it's always about generating leads, whether they're picking up the phone themselves to dial out, whether it's calls coming in, and you better make sure that there are calls coming in, but they are doing something. You mentioned FSBOs, expired, knocking on doors. Like, that is probably the easiest and cheapest way to generate leads. Is the conversion rate going to be lesser than most? Probably, but
well, there's not as many people calling expireds today as there was pre-COVID.
Probably not many expireds.
No, actually, you know what? There's more than there were during COVID.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, they're coming out, and a lot of them are. You look at the inventory in 33647. We've got single family. You got 67 active listings, 72 pending listings, and we're probably averaging, 20 to 25 expireds a week just in that zip code.
How many agents actually could spit those stats out like that? Not just that zip code, but any zip code they really market in.
Very, very few.
And when did you pull those stats?
I pull them on every Thursday.
Every Thursday. Once a week, you're pulling stats in your market so you know what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
I remember doing a panel not too long ago, and I asked the entire audience, like, okay, talk to me about how long homes sit on the market right now in your county. And they kind of just threw out numbers. And I said, okay, let's look it up. No one knew how to look it up. They didn't even know how to look up the stats. And it blew my mind. Like, obviously, it was a great teaching moment for a lot of people. But it's like, what? You don't know how to look up the stat itself?
So imagine I'm on a listing presentation in 33647, and I spit that stat out.
Yeah. You clearly know your shit.
I clearly know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So what comes with that is that, I've got a high level of confidence, right? And you want to be confident. You want to be able to lead your client. Nothing frustrates a buyer or seller more than when a realtor lets the client lead.
Oh, gosh. I totally understand what you're saying. I mean, it's a control piece, and it's not a power trip control piece. It's I know what I'm doing more than anybody else, and that's why they hired me as the realtor. That's why they're working with me, because they know that. Here's the best way to go about things. You are guiding and leading the client versus them pulling you through the mud. You know what I mean?
With the right. You go to your doctor, you go to your accountant, you go to your financial planner, and they don't ask you, what do you think? So, and so it's an interesting thing. And then you've got to be able to, on a listing, the seller always quite often wants to push the price up, and you got to, and I just did this last week. We wanted to stretch a little bit too far, and I said, I'll do whatever you want, but pricing is very strategic. It's not the starting price, it's the finishing price. So they agreed after I really suggested it. We go at $725, not the $735 they wanted, because buyers are looking at increments of 25. So we went on the market on Friday, did the open house, and it's going pending today at $750. We had 5 offers.
Yeah.
Right. So but you got to be able to explain to people the strategy, and that's leading.
So you're telling me that you suggested the price at 10 grand under what the seller wanted to do, and what happened is you got offers $15,000 to $20,000 over what the seller initially wanted.
Yes. All because we strategically priced the house knowing where the buyers are searching.
Yeah. Certain quarters type of
well,
thing.
you want to drive in as many buyers and showings as you can. Because even in this market, in the last month, I think we've put on 11 listings, and 10 of those have had multiple offers, and 10 of the 11 have gone under contract in less than 6 days.
I'm not surprised.
So it's just very strategic. It's the system in place. We don't complicate it. We find things that work, and we do it again and again and again.
Yeah, you're so heavy on your stats, on making sure you know your market. You have this system in place. You're very, very consistent. What else would you recommend agents to really do to make sure that they are students of the game and constantly getting better?
Is it a new agent? Is it an experienced agent?
How many experienced agents really are elite? Like, if they want to be elite, what do they need to do to make sure that they continue to be a student of the game to get to that elite status?
Well, I think it's kind of interesting is because I run into the thing that holds realtors back or people from becoming successful is themselves. And I need to tell them, you got to look in the mirror. You're the problem. They're the problem. We say, well, you need to call expires. You need to call FSBOs. You need to practice your scripts. You need to work on objection handling. Well, I don't want to do that. That's not me. Well, what do you mean it's not you? It's what all successful realtors have done in the past, right? The other thing is every realtor's got to understand, you are going to go from going into real estate. How many people that are in real estate come from a sales background that have had extensive sales training, right?
I don't know. What is that stat?
Very, very few.
Yeah.
People are going into real estate. One of my running jokes was back in 2005, 6, when the market started to turn, and 7, and the number of real estate agents dropped significantly.
I can't wait for that.
I said, well, the good news is with all these realtors getting out of the business, there's no longer a shortage of nail technicians. and so people are going back into the industry that they've made money in. If you want to get into real estate and you want to be successful, you've got to be willing to work 40, 50 hours a week, and you've got to do the things that you don't want to do.
I agree with that. You got to do the things you don't want to do. You got to start to really get comfortable being uncomfortable. Straight up, I've had agents that don't even feel comfortable reading in front of somebody. I've had agents that don't feel comfortable, sharing with the group, how's the market? I've had agents that feel uncomfortable about role-playing one-on-one. Like, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because once you are comfortable in all those areas, you are so much better for your client.
Well, the reason they're uncomfortable is they don't know what to say.
That's why you got to practice.
They're going to get an objection. And I remember new in real estate, I'd go on listing appointments. I'm like, oh gosh, please don't ask me to cut my commission. Please don't ask me to cut my commission. And then when I've got 4 or 5 answers to that now, I went in going, go ahead, I dare you to ask me to cut my commission.
Well, to the average person, you said earlier, your average commission on your listings is $19,000, right? Knowing what I know, and I like to think I know a decent amount about real estate, you're probably underpaid. And that's not anything short of you. To everybody else, that seems like, whoa, why should I pay him $19,000? Well, because you get it done better than anybody else. You're constantly showing, okay, well, I just made you an extra 20. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I've said this very often to anybody. You might be one of the most underpaid realtors I've ever met, and you're still one of the highest paid realtors I've ever met.
Yeah, I agree. I'm way underpaid. And and it's interesting, but we get asked. I was just asked. I took a listing Monday morning, and it was an interesting take that the seller put on it. He wanted to know if he could negotiate the buyer's agent's commission.
The seller wanted to know if he could negotiate the buyer's agent's commission.
Yeah, he wanted to pay me, but what I get, but he wanted to, because we take listings, we keep 3.5 and offer 2.5, and he wanted to know if we could offer 2% to the buyer's agent.
What was your response?
I said, I really don't think that's a good idea. Can I share with you why? And I gave him a number of reasons why, and he's like, okay, that makes sense. Forget about it. We'll pay the buyer's agent the 2.5.
Yeah.
But again, it's the delivery, it's the confidence, it's the comfortableness that I can do this. And when I role play with people, and I will role play, and then whenever they look up, I like, stop. You're thinking, right? So if you're going to break eye contact with me when I'm role playing, or if I'm talking to even a potential client, as soon as they break eye contact and look up, that means they're thinking about what they're going to say next. So if an agent is thinking about what they're going to say next, they're not listening to the person they're talking to, right?
Yeah.
And if you do that too often and you're not listening, then you're going to lose that client or that potential client. So you've got to have 3 or 4 answers to every objection, to every question, because there's only about 15 that you need to memorize. How long is it going to take to sell my house? What is your real estate? What is the real estate commission going to cost? How long is it going to be on the market? Will you take a 90-day listing? What is your market? It's all basic stuff, right? So if you've got a great pre-listing package and a powerful listing presentation, I don't get any objections.
Yeah. And a really great track record like you have too. Doesn't hurt.
Well, after 37 years of being a licensed realtor, I should have figured it out by now, right?
One would think. I've talked to some agents though that have told me, yeah, I've been doing it for 40 years, and I'm like, it seems like you've been doing it for maybe 4 months.
Well, it's interesting because when the agents will send me the text with this, the agent, the offer, and they've been in the business 25 years and they've done 86 transactions.
Yeah.
That isn't, they
a little over 3
They probably know their way around the block, but they might become too attached to the outcome. And I think some realtors psychologically try to sabotage deals because they're trying to, justify their what they're getting paid.
All the time. They couldn't have said it better. Psychologically, they sabotage deals to justify what they're getting paid. And then when they sabotage the deal, they're not getting paid at all.
Well, but they got a client. They can still drive around.
I'd rather drive to dinner after closing with that client.
Yeah, amen. Amen.
One of the things that we really talk about on higher level real estate is professionalism in our industry, right? We've kind of been toying with this throughout this conversation, but I'm pretty laid back, right? I mean, my sister would call this a grout fit, a gray outfit. You are dressed very professionally, but our level of professionalism it's almost unmatched.
Right.
Clients know that.
Right. There's the realtors that are real professional know each other and they look forward to doing transactions with each other because they get it.
Yeah. Yeah. It just makes everything.
But
so
the
much
interesting
easier.
thing is that you as an agent, I'll get a text from, my name is on all the listings because we take them. My cell phone number's there. We'll put 3 listings live on a Thursday or Friday, and I'll get a text from somebody, a number I don't know. Do you have any offers yet? That's the text. Or I want information on this property, and so I respond, can I have your name, please? Are you a realtor? And which property you're inquiring about, right? And so when a realtor sends a text like that and they're like so unprofessional at that level, that's setting a really bad example.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
Right. And so when you're a new realtor, you can come across as being much more professional than a 5-year veteran if you communicate properly.
I have that exact example. I got somebody who's with us at Paramount Home Group now, and she's I would say maybe 5-6 months in the business, but she feels professional. Like when you talk to her, she's a professional. And then I've had agents, I remember I got one specifically on the East Coast, right over in the Stewart, Port St. Lucie area. Been doing it 5 years, and I can tell you what a major turnaround that has been from the level of professionalism. She's upped her game like 5x, right? The level of professionalism, and it took kind of listening to some calls, doing some self-reflection, things like that, and it just level up, and it makes a huge difference. So I'm not saying how long you've been in the business matters for your level of professionalism. I mean, it does have something to do with it for sure.
Well, you can fake it till you make it. Right? I mean, you can actually do that. You can come across and send professional text messages. Another interesting thing is I'll put highest and best. I think it was Saturday evening. I put highest and best due Monday at 9 p.m. And I'm getting text messages from realtors Sunday night and Monday. Do you have any offers yet?
They didn't even read the listing.
They don't look at it, or they ask how old's the air conditioner, how old's the roof. We provide tons of information on MLS on the attachments.
Yeah.
Electric bill, how old the roof, air conditioning, hot water heater, homeowners insurance, everything that you need as a buyer's agent to write an offer, we provide for you. And so, but realtors, they don't look.
Yeah. It's so frustrating. I just want our industry to be full of true professionals. I'm not saying everybody needs to be on that elite status, even though it'd make our lives easier, it'd make clients' lives easier. But just like, can we at least be like at least a B and up?
They don't. The training might be offered in some offices, but if the agents don't want to embrace it, then they don't do it.
Oh, dude, you have to go through intense training just to be here for us.
Every new buyer, every new agent in real estate, if they want to become professional, and they need to understand, if you're new to real estate, it's like your freshman year in college, right? They need, you're one of the few team leads I know that does a great job of training, and I think we do a pretty good job too.
Agreed.
They're better off coming with us for 3, 4, 5 years, getting trained. After 5 years working with me, that's like 15 years or more in real estate on your own.
Oh, all day.
The learning curve is shortened. And so what we do, our goal is when agents join our team, and I have a small group. I've got 3 right now. I'd like to get 1 more. We train professional agents. When you work with Tampa Home Group, you work with us, the other agents that do business, they know Tampa Home Group. They know that you've been trained well.
Yeah.
There's an advantage to that, right? Like take Tanya, who's been with us for 11, 12 years. She'll put in offers, and because she's so professional and we do such a good job getting things to closing, her offers will get accepted, and it might not be the best offer.
Yeah.
And so if you don't get the right training and you don't act professional, you might have the best offer on a highest and best. And I've got a well-trained agent that's close, and an agent that's new or is difficult or a bad reputation. I'll go to the seller and say, hey, listen, the second best offer might be the one to go with. If we get them to match the higher price, because that other agent might be difficult or challenging and isn't responsive, we'll have a smoother transaction with this more experienced agent. That I want you just to be aware of that. That's my opinion.
I feel like that just happened recently. I helped out a friend not too long ago, and I made a phone call, and I called you. It was your listing.
Yeah.
And just because of our level of professionalism and our awareness of each other and knowing how smooth the transaction has always been with each other, that agent got that deal because of that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I was on this show I would say maybe a month ago, and I said something that I looked back on. I'm like, man, I kind of sound cocky on that. And it was something in lines of, this mentality of when you walk into a listing appointment, and instead of it being like, oh, thank you so much for your business, which it always is, it was, well, almost like a you're welcome mentality. You're welcome that you have an agent of such experience and high caliber, because I'm highly confident in that, right? But the way I said it, when I reviewed it, it came off kind of cocky and arrogant.
Right.
But you and I both have a level of humbleness, but you and I also both know the level of agent that we are, right? It's no secret. It is very easy to tell. We're at that elite status. That's me being confident about that statement, right? Took a lot to get there. That's the humble part, but the confident part, we are that elite status.
Right.
Our track record proves it. The awards prove it. How do you handle that humbleness that is a characteristic that everybody appreciates versus that confidence / maybe a little bit of cocky, but you don't really come off as super arrogant, but like, how do you handle that?
It's a great question. It's, part of it is when people find us, on our website or reviews, we let that do the talking for us. You're not going to see on our website, we're number one.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone's number one. and we don't go there. The people come to that conclusion by themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And the information we provide, the stats that we provide, and the presentation speaks for itself. You don't need to toot your own horn, so to speak.
Yeah.
Now, when we're competing on listings, I'd be remiss not to ask the seller, I think that's smart that you interview more than one agent. By the way, who are you interviewing? Do you believe past performance is a good indicator for future success? Because I'd love to bring you the track records that come published out of our multiple listing service. Just so you know, what is their list to sales price ratio? How many of their listings actually sell? I think that might be helpful information for you to make a decision. Is it okay if I provide that for you?
Yeah.
Right? It's a very nice way of providing accurate information and not saying that I think I'm better than everybody else. I want the client to come to that conclusion on their own.
Yeah.
I think too many realtors were going to say they're number one or they've sold more in this neighborhood. I mean, it's not about me. It's not about Tampa Home Group. It's about the client.
Dude, you're so good at that. Like, as you're saying that, I'm taking in this information, and I a nugget or two right there. I mean, you are so good at. Like, I want to work with you as a client now, right?
Well, I'm hiring.
No. Get out of here. I will go on a listing appointment with you, though. Can I shadow you on a listing appointment?
Yeah, one of these days.
One of these days?
Yeah, but as long as we don't start laughing.
That's going to be really tough. But yeah, man, that's awesome. You are so humble, but shit, every time I watch an agent come up to you for the first time, not to go introduce themselves, because they might not necessarily know you, but they come up to you and there's just this like sort of like, oh my God, who's this? You just come off as a very, very intelligent, confident person, but who is very humble.
I was described a number of years ago. I was in a social situation, and there was about 5 or 6 of us in a group, and I knew 2 of the people. And I was talking to the one person I didn't know, and she was taken back a little bit. And my friend stopped and said, "Oh, that's right. You don't know John. Let me explain John to you. Even though you've just met John, he's going to talk to you and treat you like he's known you for 5 years."
Yeah.
And I just treat everybody the same. I'm very open. I'm very honest. Maybe sometimes a little bit too direct. But I think because I'm usually in a hurry at the office, or I'm walking around, and new agents, they look at our sales volume, and they're afraid to talk to me. But whenever an agent comes up and asks me a question, I'll stop and answer and help.
Yeah.
See, I think I've got a mission to try to make agents better.
You and I share that same mission.
Right. I'll get people on the phone and I'll explain to them what an appraisal gap is, or the traditional standard contract with seller repairs, because everyone's gotten lazy and loves the as-is contract. Mm-hmm. I'll take 45 minutes explaining to a buyer's agent how to fill it out or what the pros and cons of it are, because they're not learning at their office because it's not even loaded, on their contracts to use.
You and I have a very similar, vision and mission and passion for just trying to make other agents better.
Yeah.
I've dedicated my entire career to it now. And now you've been doing it for a while. I've actually, since I've known you, I've seen you open up your arms even more to that, because you've been such a powerhouse for so long. And since I've known you, I've watched you open up your arms to other agents. Maybe I have an effect on you. I don't know.
Yeah, it's all you, Keegan. No, it's just the right thing to do at this point.
Yeah.
I just turned 64 years old. I figure, another 6 to 8 years I'll do this, and I'll do it at a high level.
Yeah. Now, in 6 to 8 years, how do I get your book of business?
Well, we can negotiate something.
I'm always looking for it, man.
Oh no, listen, I'm
hunting, I'm fishing.
We've got a decent sized book of business. We go through it.
Yeah.
And we add people, we subtract people, and you got to maintain it.
Yeah.
So I think right now we just recently cut it down. It's approximately 2,600.
Yeah.
Past client spheres.
Yeah.
But we're very disciplined on who we add to it. It's not just anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. That's smart. That's smart. I got a guy coming on the show next time who manages just about $400 million in money. He's a wealth manager, and he was telling me he's looking at cutting his business back a little bit to make sure that he services the clients he wants to service. You know what I mean?
No. That's smart.
Yeah.
That's really smart.
Yeah. It's amazing how some people will cut down that number so they can actually, service the ones that make most sense to them, right?
Well, you got a past client from 6 years ago. You call them 3 times a year, or Maria or I or somebody in the staff, or you try them for 4 years in a row and you can't get a hold of them, and there's not a lot to do, is that we'll take them out of that rotation and we'll leave them on the email list or the postcard list that we do. But we won't, it's a dead lead.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, there are only a very select few clients that will get me personally anymore. And if you're a referral of those select few clients, that client that is giving the referral is going to call me and say, hey, you really should work with them personally, right? Like, or else, I'm going to give them to one of my top agents because that's the highest and best use.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. I've been asking a lot of agents in my group this question, and I know the level that you're at. If somebody were to ask you, how's the market, what would be your response?
Oh my gosh, the market's great, but I'm a little low on listings. Do you know of anybody that's thinking about buying or selling real estate in the next 2 weeks?
And then the client's probably going to say, yeah, I'm actually looking to buy.
Yeah, oh my gosh, we'd love to help you.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is your time frame? When would you like to be in the new house? Have you been pre-approved yet? Can I set that up for you in the next 24 hours? How can I help you?
Yeah, I'm looking to buy in about 6 months. My lease is going to be up then.
Okay. Well, you know what? With the time frame of closes, if you only had to have one double payment, would you actually consider buying something sooner?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there a way to avoid a double payment?
Oh, absolutely. Because you know what? If you close towards the beginning of, say, September, your first mortgage payment won't be till November.
Yeah.
So something to shoot for, something to consider. What's a good time for us to actually dive a little bit deeper into this to come up with a time frame that works perfectly for you?
I'd probably say when the missus gets home, I'll talk to her, and we're typically available on the weekends.
Okay, so I'll call you tonight about 8 o'clock just to check in and set up a time.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be perfect. Love the help.
Boom. You're getting the appointment right there.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I was telling you the bank story the other day.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people will ask me for a card. I don't carry cards. I don't know your philosophy on it, but I don't carry cards. Typically what I'll say is, I don't have a card. I'll shoot you a text right now so you have my information.
No, what you say is, I don't have a card, but I do have a picture of my card. Can I text it to you?
It's even better.
Because your picture's in your phone. And now you got their cell phone number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the key is making sure that you have their information. What happens if they want to call you, but they will inevitably lose your card?
Well, they've got the text.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you follow it up afterwards to say, hey, listen, just checking in. Let me email you my contact information just in case you delete the photo by mistake.
Yeah,
And now you've got everything.
yeah. Well, it's
See,
so
here's a little
smart.
tip for your listing agents.
Yeah,
When if you got a good relationship with a title company and another realtor has brought the buyer in, get the buyer's contact information from the title company so you can start calling those buyers after they closed on your listing.
why would one do that?
Because I want to adopt that buyer to put them into my sphere so when they sell, they'll call me.
Yeah. I'm going to elaborate on that for you if you don't mind. You most likely are going to help that buyer better than the agent that helped them. And now that buyer is going to be a seller, most likely, you're going to be able to help them better.
No, we'll get their referrals.
Yeah,
Realtors don't call their clients.
I know. I see it all the time.
Yeah, no. So let's just adopt the buyer program.
Yeah.
So there's all these, there's all these little tricks that you can do, but most agents don't know them, and they don't have a mentor, right? And so the mentor is not sharing the information with them, because when we first met 4 years ago, and would talk at the office every day, I would share some of these stories and experiences with you, and you'd go, oh, well, there's a nut. What you got, nugget?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a nugget, right? And so you started, we started talking, and the information I shared with you was helpful, and you were smart enough to implement some of it, and things that you didn't think was a good idea, you didn't. But that's one of your strengths, Keegan, and I mentioned this to Maria yesterday. I said, I got to be more like Keegan. He'll go have breakfast and lunch meetings with people all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
I like to break bread with people, man. It helps me get to know them a little bit better. Because when you're in an office setting, you kind of feel like you got to be that proper person sometimes. You break bread with somebody, you can see how they are. You can see how they treat the waiter or waitress. You can see how they treat the hostess. You can see, their table manners. You can see, how they eat. And then carry on a conversation beyond, feeling stiff.
Yeah, well, and you're really good at it. And I've always looked at everybody I talk to as a potential client.
Always.
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 Yeah, I love meeting people out in public, and not like I'm going out in public to meet people, but it just happens so naturally. There are so many cool people out there, and if you just made the effort just to ask them what they do or, where they're from, you'd be amazed how much business actually comes from it.
Well, and then and it's where, like our buyer agent team, when they come to the office, they've got to be dressed for professionally, right?
Yeah.
I see a lot of realtors come into the office and they've got jeans on, or they've dressed like they're going to the beach. And I'm like, well, if you ever go out to lunch or go get coffee or meet anybody, or you meet a past college friend, and it's Wednesday afternoon and you're dressed like that, and you tell them, oh yeah, I'm a full-time realtor.
So I'm so glad you brought this up, because you and I have differed on this for so long, which is, even we're not exactly the same. We have a lot of same characteristics, but we're not exactly the same. I remember one time you were giving me shit for wearing a hula shirt in the office all the time. And you're like, man, you sure what people are going to think of you if you're wearing a hula shirt? Well, you know what I did within the next week of you telling me that? I went out to a listing appointment in a freaking hula shirt and got the listing.
Yeah, and you know what? Someone wins the lottery every week too, and the odds are really hard against you. Like the hula shirt.
Yeah.
So no, my whole thing is that, and it's because I've been doing this for so long, is I'll show up with my suit on. If it's real hot, I won't have a tie, and I think that demands respect. I think you're getting dressed for people, and you're dressed professionally. And if I were to run into somebody out to lunch, and it's a potential gentleman, and it's an $800,000-$900,000 listing, and I say, yeah, I'm a busy full-time realtor. Well, I look like it.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think you're judged. You are judged within 5 seconds of walking in that door.
Unfortunately, you are right. People will make that judgment very, very quickly before they even know you. Yeah, I agree. But somehow I still can wear a hat and T-shirt and still get it done.
Well, that's because you're dealing with all your past clients and the rare time that you do it. I don't know how you were when you were actually grinding.
I probably wore a suit, especially in the beginning of my career when
Uh,
I couldn't grow any facial hair. Now it's still hard for me to
well,
do
now
it, but
when you're dealing with past clients, you can get away with it.
yeah. Do you have any cool stories of past clients? You ever like go on vacations or fancy dinners or anything with them?
With past clients?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I just went to Costa Rica with Del Diaz, second time in 2 years, and I met Del when I first got back into real estate in Tampa in the late 90s, early 2000s at the Brookside subdivision. He had a single family division, Southern Crafted Homes, a division of Diaz Fritz,
Yeah.
and I represented that subdivision.
So hold on a second. So you went to Costa Rica with your past client. This is the same vacation that you showed me pictures of.
Yeah.
Just by happenstance, I went about 2 years before to Costa Rica with a past client, and you just happened to stay at the same vacation home that I stayed at with my past
Yes,
client.
that's right. I showed you
Dude,
the video. That's a small world.
that's so crazy.
You
There's a
know?
nice view from that back pool too.
Well, when you do a lot of business and you meet, you have people that you like, and my wife, the most wonderful wife anyone's ever had.
Yeah, you're really lucky.
I am. And so Maria makes friends with everybody. So we've got a number of past clients that we go out to dinner with, we socialize with.
Yeah.
We travel with other high-producing realtors too,
Yeah.
just like-minded people.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you.
And so you can be friendly with everybody, and you want to be professional with everybody. But even at listing presentations and contracts, you don't try to be everyone's friend.
I agree. Yeah, you're talking business at that point. If you're at the listing table, you're talking business. Now, you can do it in a friendly way, and you can create a relationship with that person, but you are talking business. You are there to help them.
We've got past clients that have come to our house the last 5 years with their family for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. When I was in Costa Rica with that client, that was for Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
I don't know if I had turkey that night, but
probably fish.
probably. Yeah. Yeah, man, it's so cool. I was just at my buddy's house on Sunday when I came back from Jupiter when I was on the East Coast this weekend. I went straight to his place. Actually, it was the same person I went to Costa Rica with. We went out on his $2 million boat and just were shooting the shit and hanging out with him and his fam. And sure as shit, they gave me another referral. I went to his Christmas party. Got another deal from that.
Because they know you'll take care of their friends.
Yeah.
And their referrals. People like to hand off people they know to good realtors, good accountants, good contractors. If you do a good job, you'll get referrals, but you've got to ask for them.
Yeah. In your opinion, what do clients, buyer, seller, investor, what do they need to know and what do they need to look for when looking for an agent?
They've got to ask questions, and it's kind of scary out there. For example, I would encourage any buyer. You need to actually talk to 2 or 3 buyers agents, ask them questions about whether it be new construction or pricing on property or to prove their sales record, right? And ask a lot of questions, and just don't go with somebody that shows you a house and you like. And so you want to have a comfort level when you're buying that you're not overpaying, and your realtor has pointed out all the potential negatives in the decision of selecting a home. Are corner lots good or bad? Why? Why are 2-family homes not used as comps with 1-story homes? Right? What does the lot back up to? Who is the builder? What is the, all this different information, a good buyer's agent can explain it to you so you know what you're doing going in, and you know that you're not making a mistake. Because as I said before, our goal is never to have a buyer or seller say, gosh, I wish I knew this before I decided to buy. Mm. So we will provide all the information and then say, the decision's yours. A couple of years ago, Tanya had a buyer in South Tampa, $1.4 million house, and she asked me to look at the comps, which I do for my team members. And I'm like, well, that house isn't worth a dime over 1.2. And the reason for that is it's because it was on the water, but it had a narrower lot. Because one of the calculating factors on waterfront property is how much water frontage you have. So we explained to the doctor, you're going to overpay by $100,000 on this house if you buy it at this price. We just wanted you to know that. He goes, okay, John, I appreciate that. But it's the only house I can buy where I can get home. He was a doctor at Tampa General. I want to get home every day to have lunch with my wife and 2-year-old son. I'm willing to overpay. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah.
So we wrote the contract and got it sold. We gave him the information, and he made the decision.
Yeah.
So what separates us a bit is that we give people the information and we don't tell them what decision to make. So if you didn't buy it, that's fine. If he buys it, that's great. You try not to become attached to the outcome.
I'm so glad you said that. You took the words right out of my mouth. Too many times I see agents attached to the outcome. They're trying to sell the deal. They need the deal. Like, hey, listen, I get it. When you start, it is going to be a little tougher. Like, money is tight as a brand new agent for most, right? And you need that. But clients can smell commission breath. They know when you're a little bit more desperate. If you're not attached to the outcome, whether they get this house or not, or they sell this house or not, like, obviously you are there to help them. But when you're not attached to the outcome, it makes a world of difference, and they trust you more.
So it's interesting. It's because a lot of people think that we're in sales. We're salesmen, or sales. We are to a certain extent, but we're information providers, right? Here's the information that you need to know before you buy this house. Like a subdivision in New Tampa's got high CDD fees, and their amenities aren't that good, right? And so that's why their pricing has kind of hit a ceiling compared to other areas. So being able to have that conversation with somebody, knowing going in, because they're like, oh, okay, well, that's something to consider, and then they make the decision.
Yeah.
Whether I think it's the right decision or not doesn't matter.
Unless they ask you.
Unless they ask me, and I'm going to say, well, you're going to reach a ceiling on pricing, or if you were to purchase this house, let's take one of the dysfunctional floor plans out there. It's basically a 2-story home where there's more square footage upstairs, air conditioned, heated, than downstairs.
Yeah, because of the garage.
I'm sorry?
Because of the garage.
Well, because of the garage, but also it's because of the way the house was built.
Yeah.
And so they can buy it, but we're going to let them know there's a tight inventory right now. There's not a lot on the market. So buyers are going to overlook that. If we ever switch to an inventory heavy market, that house is going to have a hard time to sell unless they reduce the price.
Yeah.
So you're taking a risk purchasing this house because of in my opinion, it's an odd floor plan.
Yeah. Obsolete.
Now they're going to go, oh, well, thank you for pointing that out to me. Yeah, there is more square footage upstairs because you can't get more than 6 guests downstairs if you ever want to have company over. Yeah. Everyone's going to be upstairs in the huge loft. So I feel it's our obligation to point that out to people because they might not see it because they're getting caught in the eye candy. So it's just, and then once we tell them that, if they're like, yeah, but my wife loves it, we're happy with it, I'm like, great, let's write it up.
Yep. Yeah. It's so true. It's funny, you say you let them make the decision, but 99 times out of 100, your clients are still asking you what they should do.
Well, I'm trying to guide them.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to give them all the information. Now, I've warned them. If you call me in 2 years or 3 years to sell the house and the inventory is a lot higher than it is today, we're going to have challenges to sell it potentially.
Yeah, I agree. Last thing I want to touch on, brokerages. I met you at Keller, right? You're still there. I made the move to LPT. We all have our own reasons. But there are so many different brokerages out there. There are so many different models out there. I remember, it was probably about 2 years ago where I really mentally made the decision that I was going to, move on from Keller Williams, but I wasn't just going to move.
Right.
And I wanted to be very strategic about it. I wanted to make sure I put all of my agents in the best position possible to succeed. And I did a lot of searching. I turned down a huge 6-figure check from Compass at that time. And it just, because it didn't feel right. It was something that would have been counterproductive to the agents that I look after. And it's just, but it is a big deal. Brokerages are out there, 100% flat fees, super high, caps, all these different things. They all tout they have the best training. I like to get the emails, 100% commission. We have the best training. And I'm like, were you high when you wrote that?
Well, it's just like a realtor saying they're number one.
Yeah, according to the magazine that they paid for, right?
Right.
But what's your opinion on that? What is your opinion on all the different brokerages and how agents should really make a decision based on that? What should they look for?
Well, it's interesting because new agents are going to talk to different brokers, and they're all going to be told they're going to be given leads, right? And those are just scrub bad leads. They're not going to get much of anything.
Yeah.
And my advice to a new agent is you need to go to a brokerage that's going to offer you really good training. And you need to sit in on some of their training. You need to get the calendar. You need to see how it's delivered. Is it video? Is it in person? Do they have a mentorship program? Because you're new to real estate, you need to understand you're not going to get a great commission split, right? Because why should you?
Well, because I'm an agent, I deserve 100% of my commission, John.
Well, then you can go to an office that will provide that for you, but you've got zero guidance, you got zero mentorship, and you're not going to get any training. So 100% of no transactions is 100%.
Yeah, John, I remember my beginning of my career, 10% the first year, 20% the second year, 30% the third year. But the second and third year, I was making six figures, which is more than most agents make on 100%.
Oh no, absolutely, because the agents get balled up into all of that. But once you're like, take Maria and I at Tampa Home Group, we could go anywhere and it doesn't really affect us.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't.
Because we do our own thing. We don't really need any help. We don't need any guidance. But agents that don't do a lot of business, there's something to be said about having a big name behind you, right? So if you can't sell your track record, you could say, well, I'm at Coldwell Banker, or I'm at Remax, I'm at Keller Williams. They sell more homes than anybody else. You've got something to pitch the potential buyer or seller. If you're part of a team, well, you're getting the training and you got the team name behind you on how many agents and how many transactions we do, right? And so you've got to be able to give that realtor that doesn't have a track record something to fall back on.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but they get too balled up in how much money they're going to get, because the training that you're getting, you're going to spend $50,000-$60,000 a year to go to a college. Right? And so if you're going to give up a little bit of your commission to get this training and this education, it's well worth it.
Yeah. I feel like I look back and I would do it again. I would take the 10 for the first year, the 20 for the second, and 30 for the third, because I feel like I got a double doctorate in real estate.
Well, you wouldn't be where you are now if you didn't.
Yeah.
You might get there eventually, but look at how far you've grown in a relatively short period of time. And you found your niche, you found your seat, you found your role, and it might not have happened if you didn't start where you started, because you had constant mentorship and guidance. Yeah. Each step along the way on the transaction.
Well worth it. Well worth it, man. I would do it again in a heartbeat. And it's tough for agents. I wish all of them would see that. It doesn't matter where they're at in the country. It doesn't matter, where they're at in their career. If they're elite status, they're probably not going to look for a team. But if you're not elite, if they got around somebody like yourself, look what that would do for them.
Oh no, they become better educated. They'd be more confident. They would be trained, and they can talk to right now. Let's say you got the untrained agent that's going to come across 100 opportunities to secure a client. They might secure 2 to 3. If you're well trained and you have 100 opportunities to secure a client, you're gonna depending on whether they're working with somebody or not, you're going to be able to secure 50, 60, 70 of those.
Yeah.
Right? It's because you're going to learn the things you need to know: what to say, how to say it, what questions to ask. The tonality, you need to learn about personality types, how to talk to different personalities, right?
DISC.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. There is so much to learn, and you've got to be at the very basic, you need to know the purchase contract and listing contract like the back of your hand.
Wishful thinking, John.
I mean, I had 2 years ago 4 buyers lose their escrow deposit, even though they got was terminated in the loan commitment period, because the realtor checked out the wrong type of mortgage the buyer was getting.
Yeah.
So that those realtors cost their clients, $5,000 to $8,000 to $10,000 4 times in 1 year
Because they didn't have the right training.
because they didn't have the right training.
Yeah, I mean, I really urge all agents out there that are not where they want to be in their career yet, they need to find somebody like you and get under their wing. I do the same thing you do, right? Like it's slightly different business models, but you and we have that passion for passing it down.
Yes.
We know how to get there. We've done it before. We are continuing to do it, and we practice every single day at getting better.
You got to start each day at 0.
I still got the butterflies every day because of you.
Yeah. If you don't have butterflies in your stomach, you're not growing.
Yeah, I got you.
But most people run away from that.
We see that every day.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, I really appreciate it. It has been so much fun. We always chop it up. We always shoot the shit, whether we're at lunch, whether we're at dinner, whether we're at a grad party, whether we got a drink in our hand or not. That's looking pretty tasty right now.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. But I appreciate it, man. I look forward to the next time, for real.
Absolutely, bud. Take care.
All right, man. Thanks.